And then I went to like a local coffee shop, got some stuff done. So been
I got you.
pretty productive. Yeah.
Got you.
How about
Hey,
you?
just gonna jump right into it. Welcome everyone to the Money Buys Freedom podcast, episode 50. We have Michael Putman. You and your wife are like a husband and wife real estate team, right?
Yeah. So we're like full-time real estate investors. I used to be a paint contractor, which was like more of a day-to-day job, or day-to-day business. This is more like a passive business. And my wife kind of just handles everything as far as like paperwork, financials, making payments, all the materials and stuff like that. And then I'm in charge of more like the asset management, the contractors, the renovations, finding the deals, the property manager,
I got you.
all that stuff, right? And then I have a third partner, which is my dad, who's in charge of like the financials, like funding the deals. So, but he's not really involved. So we kind of run everything, just my wife and I, which is awesome. We make all the decisions, and we've been doing that for like 3 years now, and everything's been running smoothly. No arguments, no fighting. So
Yeah, right.
yeah.
So I guess from the back, kind of the very beginning, how did your dad start it, and y'all just kind of evolved? Like, how did like y'all get into real estate originally?
So originally, I studied real estate in college. I got a bachelor's degree in real estate, so I was always good at real estate for some reason. But then after college, I got into like the construction world, so contracting. I started my own business here in Miami, and we painted a lot of houses and buildings all over Miami-Dade. We even gone outside of Miami to like Gainesville, Panama City. And I started building my connections with all like the laborers, right? So I knew someone, I had great painters, and then I knew someone that did flooring, baseboards, all that stuff, all the cosmetic stuff. So after like 4 or 5 years of, running this paint business, we actually had a huge project in Gainesville that was like painting 300 apartments. So my wife and I we thought about moving there and maybe like renting an apartment. And once we got there, I had a friend from high school who was a realtor there that told me that there was a big investor that owned all these houses and apartments that's willing to do seller financing.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. So I was like, what's seller financing? Because I knew I couldn't get financed by a bank traditionally because, when you own a business, you make you make money, but you also, your taxes, sometimes you write off a lot of stuff on your taxes. Yeah. So your income doesn't really show what you made because everything is written off.
Because you're trying to prove to the IRS that you're making no money, but you're trying to prove to the bank that you actually do. So it's kind of
it's a double-edged sword. So when you do that, you can't get a loan from a bank, when you buy a house, or it's a lot more difficult.
Yeah.
So the seller financing route was like really, really beneficial for me because it actually gave me a chance to become a homeowner, and I had the 20% down. So in this case, it was $100,000 apartment, and we needed 20 grand, and I had the 20 grand just through the paint business, saving money. Big jobs, you get big lump checks, and the process was pretty easy. Like the seller. He asked for my 24-month bank statements. He asked for a few referrals, and everything went smooth. We closed, and I did a video on TikTok about like kind of like all that whole process, what it was like. We slept on an air mattress. We bought furniture. We bought too many chairs. We had all these like plans to renovate the apartment. We wanted to do like tongue and groove on the ceiling and all this HGTV stuff.
Yeah, I gotcha. You watching Chip and Joanna Gaines or something, got inspired?
Yeah, so we had fun with it. And Gaines was kind of it's a secondary market. You know, it's a college town, and there's a lot of like smaller cities outside of Gainesville that were like cool thrift shops and antique stores. So, you know, we were like checking those out and trying to like buy some cool stuff. But so that's how we kind of got started in the real estate. Was just a 2-bedroom apartment, seller financing, 20% down, 6.5% interest, which I thought was like super high at the time, but I didn't care. And it was like a 25-year amortization. So we had like our mortgage payment was like $800 or $600, $650, and then we had an HOA fee of like $100. And we lived in it for 6 months. No, less than that. We lived in it like for like 3 or 4 months. Then, like any construction project, it got delayed. It kept getting delayed. And so we're just living in Gainesville, and we're getting delayed. So then we finally were like, you know, let's move back to Miami. So we moved back to Miami, and then we decided to put tenants into the apartment. They were renting the apartment for like $1,000. My realtor was also a property manager, or he had just started his property management business. So I think we were like his first client for his new business. And then we rented it out like right away for $1,100.
Yeah.
Cash flowed about $200, $200, $300 a month. But I never met the tenants. I don't even know their names. You know, I didn't visit the property. Everything was managed, and a year went by and we decided to sell it. And then we made so we got our down payment back, and then we got like $20,000 more. So like we basically flipped our money. Yeah.
So y'all, that first deal, you seller financed it. Was your wife like all about it at the time? Was it hard to convince her to sleep on the floor for a certain amount of time? Because we've done a lot of live-in flips, and it's kind of a disaster living in a construction site. So I was curious how that was.
Yeah. So like at the time I was living at home with my mom, and she was living with me as well. And we wanted like just to get out, you know, like we didn't have enough money to buy a house in Miami. So this was kind of like our way to get out and experience not only becoming a homeowner, but experience like, you know, living on our own, something that was ours, something that we can renovate. So, and at the time we didn't have any kids. All we had was a dog. And so it was easy to make that jump at that time. I think we were like 27 at the time. Mm-hmm. So we made that jump, and it was more exciting than scared. I've never been one to be like scared of like a new adventure.
Yeah.
You know, some people kind of overthink, well, what happens to this? What happens to that? You know, I'm like, we'll figure it out type of thing.
Yeah.
You know, I don't make itineraries. Like when I travel, I'm like, you know, once we get there, we'll get a hotel wherever we're at. So
you almost have to take it like make it unpersonal, because it's like, just think of it as like a game, and you're playing the game. And because I feel like when you get like think about it too much, you get worked up, and then you don't do it. So it's almost like stepping away and like, hey, if I was playing a board game or like the cash flow or Monopoly, I would be doing this move. So,
dude, real estate is a game for me. It's like, how can I keep stacking my chips, right? Mm-hmm. So if you compare it to poker, like playing your cards right, and knowing how to, you know, hold them or fold them, or to negotiate, like calling someone's bluff, you know. So for me, it's like a game, you know, and you got to be super conservative. You got to manage your risk. You can't be aggressive to the point where, like in crypto, you know, you can buy Bitcoin or you can buy altcoins, right? And you can, you know, try to hit a home run. But when you're dealing with real estate, you're dealing with hundreds of thousands of dollars, like, you know, lifetime savings. So you have to be smart with your money, but it's still a game. It's still, you know, finding the right deal, negotiating, and working the terms that are in your favor. So,
yeah. So, so you got that first deal. I knew now you're in like the 70 something range, but your goal is like 1,000. Why? Just kind of background. Why 1,000? Why is that just crazy number and shoot high, or?
I was listening to Nipsey Hussle, and there was a line that he said like on something about his journey of 1,000 sit-ups to his journey of, and I was just like, man, you know, it kind of resonated with me. I'm like, oh, well, why not 1,000 units, right? Why 100 units? Why, 200 units? Like, I feel like 1,000 units, like, it's an aggressive but achievable goal. It gives me time to get there instead of like trying to rush to it in a year or two. It gives me like 10 years, or 10 to 15 years. So I like that number, and I was thinking about like a name for days or weeks, and just one night I don't know, it just popped in my head, and I told my wife, like, what about Road to 1,000 units? She's like, yeah. I'm like, all right, that's it. I knew I wanted to hit 1,000 apartments, and it was funny because it was like right in the beginning of COVID, even before multifamily was like such a trend on social media. It was still kind of, you had the older guys that were doing multifamily, but it really like kind of the whole Brrrr strategy, and, it really blew up in the last 2 years. So
when did you buy that one bedroom, or not one bedroom,
the 2-bedroom apartment? We closed like in 2018. Yeah, and closing.
So that 18 you did one. What was after that one deal?
Okay, so after that, I was trying to. So once I did the seller financing deal, I was thinking about multifamily. I got this book. This one, actually. So I walked into a Barnes and Nobles in Coral Gables, Miami, and I wanted a book about real estate. I knew I wanted to learn. I wanted to do like apartments, but I didn't really know the term. And I found this book called Multifamily Millions by David Lindahl.
Yeah, I've read that book. It's good.
Yeah, and it just like that was the first book that kind of like got my brain going. Mm-hmm. I read the book. I started learning about repositioning and value add and all that stuff. And then I was playing basketball Saturday. There's like a group of guys that a group of older guys that play basketball. One of the guys, his name's Ralph. He had already started the multifamily process. He had just closed on his second apartment complex. His first one was 64 units. The second one was 84 units.
Oh, wow.
So I started picking his brain. Like, I read the book. I was learning as much as possible, but now I have someone that I can like meet up with every Saturday and ask them like questions and kind of just avoid any like mistakes in the beginning. Yeah. So then I was like, okay, I want to get into multifamily, but I don't have the money. I have a little bit of money, but I don't have a lot of money. And so what do I got to do? I got to start raising money. I got to start talking to investors in real estate or people that that have a lot of cash and they don't know what to do with it. So I started I did like a whole executive summary, a spiral binder, like a whole like pitch and that. And I was meeting with people and kind of like pitching like deals even before I had them under contract. Like, hey, like we can get this under contract and, we can go 80-20. I can put in, X amount, you guys put in X amount, and kind of joint venture partnership deals. Mm-hmm. And everybody's like, yeah, like I want to do it. So I was talking to my wife, and my dad was in the house, like overhearing me talk to my wife about it, and he just kind of like pitched to me. He's like, hey, well, why don't you invest in me? And I'm like, I didn't think you would be willing. I didn't think that was an option. And he's like, yeah, well, I'm getting to the age like where I have to pull my money out of my 401k, but there's like a 30% tax. And like, when it comes to a lot of money, it's, it could be $100,000 or, so I was like, all right, well, okay, well, I got this deal and it's in Pensacola and it was 18 units, and they're asking like $950. So we put in an offer for $900 and it got accepted. So then we did the whole due diligence process.
So take me through that y'all's for due diligence process, like from the 18 unit, because that had to be kind of nerve wracking. It's like, dang, my dad trusted me. Got to go through this process. Fingers crossed. Take us through that due diligence.
Yeah, so my dad actually flew to the property like right away, and I guess because he was kind of skeptical, and
Yeah.
and like, I mean, the property was like on the outside just this brown brick. All the windows were like hazed with like mildew. The property, the tenants, it didn't feel very safe, and then they took them inside the apartments. There was like mildew. There's mildew on the outside of the brick, mold on the inside, like holes in the wall, leaks, all this stuff. I mean, it was a piece of crap. But it was 18 units. It was built in the 80s. It had a concrete foundation, brick on the outside. It was only a few blocks from a golf course. It was like a 2 to 5 minute drive to UWF, a university. It had like Publix, Target, Chick-fil-A. It's called like it's like a Whole Foods but local. I forgot what the name is. So I had all this like nice retail. It was in a good location, but it was just a really crappy property. So he came back and he's like, "Are you sure you want to buy this?" I'm like, "Don't worry, I got the team. I got the guys." I felt confident because I knew that I knew my team down here can knock that out. Like if I tried to hire a contractor there, I would have got killed. They would have charged me twice, a double or triple the cost. So I took my team with me, all Miami guys, and we just started knocking it out super fast. And I think we were done with the renovations in 3 months. But those 3 months, my wife and I, we moved there. We slept on an air mattress. We got an Airbnb, and then we got one unit renovated all the way, and then we got an air mattress, and then we slept on the air mattress. My son was just born. He was like 4 weeks old. This was like COVID just started, and we just didn't care. We're like, I mean, I had a lot of my family members like didn't leave the house, and my wife and I were like, yeah, we're going. We're gonna go renovate it, and it was exciting. It was our next adventure and our first big step in our like road to 1,000 unit journey. Right?
That's pretty good if you convinced your whole team. How far of a drive was it where you were at to?
Like 10 hours from Miami to Pennsylvania.
So did you like put your whole team up in like an Airbnb or?
Yeah, so we got a motel, and it's I got them a motel, and that was like paid by the week. So I got two rooms for them, and we just stayed there for 3 months. That part wasn't as expensive, because it was like paid by the week. But then my wife and I were in an Airbnb. We had a little bit more comfort. But
I mean, y'all had a 4 week.
Yeah, we had a newborn. We had a little sister that was like 14. We kind of took her with us because it was during the summer, and it was a great experience. I enjoyed living in Pensacola for the short amount of time.
Yeah,
living in a new city is fun. We were checking out new restaurants and going to like parks and stuff like that. So it makes it like really truly a journey. So
for financing, you obviously weren't going to be able to get traditional financing for that. Did your dad?
We bought cash.
You brought cash for the whole deal?
Yeah, because it was 18 units, 10 of the units were vacant. 10 of the units were vacant. The other 8 units were month to month. And out of those 8 units, probably like 4 of them were actually paying on time. The other 4 were paying late. And then we had 1 unit that was like, that filed for the I think it was like CDC, COVID, and they didn't have to pay, or they paid, but they kind of just like paid on their own time whenever the government would send them money.
So were you confident of like the back end, how much it would rent for going into COVID, things being like, oh, maybe you don't have to pay your rent or landlord or
right. So the rents were in the area for a 2-bedroom was like $1,000. For a 1 bedroom was like $850, and this was like unrenovated. This was just like it kind of looked like a 1980s, 1990s look. What our plan was to put about $10,000 to $12,000 per unit. We were gonna put stainless steel appliances, vinyl flooring, all new woodwork. And we were pretty confident that we would at least get $850. And at the current time, they were paying like $500, $506, I think was the average rent. The property manager, when we signed the management agreement with them, they recommended that we list it for $850. And I just told them, I'm like, you know what? Like, let's list it at like $1,100. Just kind of like, let's see how the market reacts. And if nobody rents it out for $1,100, then we'll start bumping it down, as opposed to starting at the bottom and trying to work up. And they fought with us back and forth, and then I was like, just do it. Kind of like, I don't care what you like. I understand your professional view on it, but I'm just gonna override this, and I just want you to just list it at $1,100. And like the first 2 weeks, I was like, oh my god, it's not rent, it's not leasing. And then like by like the third week, we got like 3 new tenants. And I'm like, oh, okay, it worked, And then we just started we filled it up pretty fast,
So you brought $900 for cash to buy the deal. How much to like house, renovate, all that stuff included was it?
So the contract, we agreed at $900, but then we actually bought it for $850.
Oh, okay.
Because we said it needed a new roof. That there was all these like deferred maintenances that needed to get addressed. So we got $50,000. To replace the roof, it cost us $30,000, $33,000, and then the leftover money we also had it like part of our renovation budget. So we actually we purchase price was $850, and we spent $300 on renovations throughout the 3 months. So it was pretty much like $100 on the outside, maybe less, maybe like $80 or $90 on the outside. That was the replacing the roof, the exterior paint, the landscape, clearing all the trees, all the hedges that we did, the lighting. What else did we do on the outside? What cost a lot?
What?
The containers that we had to remove all the trash, because we would fill up.
Yeah.
They were like, how many? I don't know, $600 or $500 each container.
Yeah,
we filled it up so fast, and I was like, all right, another one. I think we've probably went through like 30 refills on that property. So
being a professional contractor, this is kind of what you do. Did you make any mistakes in estimating repair cost? Or
yeah. So the two big ones was the AC units and the windows. So I planned on like replacing maybe 2 AC units, and we ended up like replacing like 10 AC units. It's just like once we got new tenants, they were like, "Oh, my AC doesn't work," and then the AC contractor would come out and be like, "Hey, you got to replace this." So I was like, "Oh my god!" Every AC unit was like $4,000.
Yeah.
So it just like those were the tough calls or emails to respond to. It's like
windows are brutal.
Yeah. So the windows, I didn't realize like how many window panes there were. So I'm a painting contractor, but I also do like vinyl flooring and casings and cosmetics. So the things that I kind of overlooked were the windows and the air conditioning. This was, first project. So now, whenever I buy an apartment complex, that's like the first thing I look for is the AC units and the windows.
How much did the windows cost?
The windows to replace, I think, was like we got the kind of like the most economical, like clear panel. I think it was like we had to like replace like 200 or something panels. It came out to like $20,000.
Yeah,
obviously if you do like impact windows, you're looking at over $100,000. you know.
Yeah, they're bad.
But they're just like, and we had like sliding glass doors that we had to replace. I think there was like 10 sliding glass doors. So that's all, part of the learning curve, and all the bathrooms got glazed. We hired someone local for that. For the roof, we had to hire someone local. But
so building out like kind of the team, like I know your friend was the property manager on your first deal. How was it developing your team? Because obviously you're not going to be able to drive 10 hours every weekend if something messes up. How was it going about picking your team there? Like your maintenance staff, your property manager. How did you figure out?
Basically just Google. So I went on Instagram, tried to find property managers in Pensacola, and like really like there was like no property managers on Instagram. It was more realtors. So then I went to Google property managers in the area. There was like a list of 10 of them. And then I was like, okay, this one seems more like single family based. This one seems like too big, too corporate. And then I kind of came down to like 2 of them that were like mom and pop that had multifamily experience. And then I kind of called both of them. Hey, we're planning on buying an 18 unit in the area. We want to get a quote, to manage the property. And then from there, it's almost like an interview process.
Yeah.
So you're talking to the property managers and kind of getting this like, a vibe from them, whether like your gut's telling you like, okay, this person's like detailed, they're going to take care of my property. They understand what I'm looking for as far as like repositioning. Some of them have like kind of their old traditional ways and they're just not as open to like, as far as like different viewpoints as like raising the rent so high or whatever.
Yeah, I gotcha.
So you want to find a property manager that you can feel connected with. They're not your friends. Like you can like your conversation with them is like almost as like a friendship, but at the same time, like they're really the ones that are in charge of whether your property is going to succeed or fail.
Yeah, you always want to have
that line, right? So, so I found this property. She was like super responsive. She went to the site with me. I can just tell that she was gonna like,
care,
be on top of it and care, where I don't have to like constantly like nag her. And I just had a gut feeling they matched the other property management's like fees, like as far as like the percent per month and like, the work. A lot of times like the work orders, you gotta be careful because a property management can kill you by like keep charging work orders. Next thing you know, your cash flow is just like very low, or your NOI just drops. So
do you have it where like it's approved to a certain amount with your property manager? Like how do you work that?
Yeah, so anything like $200 or less, they can make that decision where they don't have to call me. But anything more than $200, they have to call me. There's been times where they haven't called me, and it was like a $300 order, and then I notice it, and I have to call them out on it. If it's a property manager that in the past has been pretty honest, then I won't. But like if I see like that there's a lot of charges, then I'm like, hey, like I'm making a phone call right away. I'm like, what's going on here? Like you're supposed to call me.
I gosh, because it's definitely very big. Like communication is definitely key because they're basically your COO of that property.
Yeah,
lives by them.
But property management in itself, like that's their business too. So they got to make money for their property. So not only are they making money on like managing it, but they're also making money on like work orders, right? So they might send a handyman out to go fix a problem that might take them 15 minutes, but they're charging you 2 hours. Yeah. So it's like how do you manage that where you feel like you're not getting taken advantage of. So property management is like tricky because you also don't want to call them out on it where you feel like they're being dishonest and you lose that trust. So
So do you have it in your contract where like is it like 1 year agreements and you can reevaluate after a year? How's your
So they want, well, every property manager wants to do a 2 year minimum. And that's part of the management agreement. You just say, hey, like, I want to do 12 months. After the 12 months, if I feel like you did a great job, we're going to just do like an automatic renewal. But most property managers will try to lock you in for 24 months right off the bat. But everything on the management agreement is negotiable.
I got you. So tell me about the back part of the deal. Let's say you had all your cash in the deal, going to get that long-term financing to get your dad's money back.
Yeah. So after it was repositioned, you got to wait like a year. So they want to know how the property is performing after a year. Then you can go to a lender. They're going to order an appraisal, an inspection, and so our property got appraised at $2.2 million. And yeah, so we were able to get all of our money out, which I rolled that over into another property for the down payment, kind of the same process. Bridge loan, interest only, so my mortgage payments are super low, or I can cash flow as I'm repositioning. And yeah, so we're just rolling the money over. And
so you cash out refinance. You took that 1.1 million and bought another unit.
So we have a 22 unit in the same process. We renovated that, refinanced it, rolled it over to the 32 unit, and it's just like I can either keep that cash to buy another property, or I can have it in reserve. But you're gonna pay taxes on it if you cash it out. So if you do a 1031 exchange, you buy another property, obviously you don't have to pay taxes.
For now.
Yeah. So, you can put it into another property, or you can put it into stocks, and hopefully you make money on it, and then that profit can pay for the taxes, and now you have the cash.
Yeah. I got you. So I guess the backtrack. Let's say you took that 1.1, you bought another property. That I think was it the $2 million property. What kind of financing did you get? You fixed 5 or 6%.
So it's
years.
They're interest only. So what I'm doing are bridge loans. They're loan to cost, right? So they get the value of the property, and then how much. And then your renovation budget. So let's say the property is 1.7 million. They'll do a mixture of the down payment and the renovation budget. Let's say the renovation budget is 800 grand. They basically put those two together, and then they ask you for like 20-25%, which is called loan to cost. So you use that money for the loan to cost. They'll give you like interest only. So now your mortgage payment is like $6,000, but you have a 32 unit apartment complex that's bringing in $20 something thousand. So you're limiting like by doing the interest only, you are making your mortgage payments less. That way you have more cash to work with, right? You have more cash flow in the first year because you're going to be repositioning. You're going to be people are going to be moving out, and you're going to be putting new people in. That's the whole.
So that 18, you said that was interest only, or that was fixed, and then the next one
18's fixed. Right?
Okay.
So now the 18 is fixed, but now the new property that I'm going to be renovating is interest only. Yeah.
Yeah. So do you like, when you refinance out, do you like to see like a certain amount of cash flow for like for a safety net, or like what do you like to see? Like, do you just pull out as much as you can? Like, what do you like to see?
Yeah. So for my 18 unit, pretty much cash flow is like $5,000 a month. So with that money, I just kind of like don't even touch it and just leave it there. So it's not really a percentage. I just some months might not cash flow because you have an AC unit that you got to replace or a plumbing issue. So, but yeah, you got to make sure you cash flow. You can't be upside down. If you are upside down or breaking even, I would recommend you just sell it. But if you have a few $1,000s in cash flow, then hold on to it, and you can hold on to it for a long time, like 10 years from now, and that 2.2, valuation might be a $4 million valuation. All right, so
when you did your second big deal, the 22, when you did the mix between the bridge and interest only, were you nervous at all on the back end, knowing that it's probably around the time rates were starting to rise? Were you nervous at all on that?
Well, at that time, the Feds weren't increasing the rates so high.
What year was this?
What's that?
What year was that?
This is 20. So I just did a 2022 on the 22 unit. I just refinance, and we got it at so when we bought the property, our interest rate, we bought it in 2020, and our interest rate was 4.5. Commercial is a little bit higher than residential.
Yeah.
When I refinanced it at 5.5,
That's
and then it was like about a year later, we refinanced at 5.5, and then the Fed started increasing the interest rates like crazy. Literally, we did our refinance, and then the next 3 months, it was like another hike in interest rates.
Yeah.
Right now, I'm looking to do an SBA loan for a self-storage unit, and I got quoted 7.2 plus like a 1.75 point fee.
Yeah.
And so it's like 9.2. That's my interest rate on what we're planning on doing is building a self-storage unit, like from the ground up construction.
Oh.
Yeah. So the interest rate is a little bit higher with that, But.
So you did the 2 multifamilies, and now you're doing self-storage. Why self-storage? Just because it's recession-proof, or like what attracts you?
Okay, so when we were buying these multifamilies, the prices weren't so high, right? So we were still finding deals. Like I bought my 32 unit for 1.7 million. Now you can't find a 32 unit unrenovated is easily like 3.2. Everything is just so much more expensive. Finding an apartment complex at like $50,000 per unit, that's what I was doing. Like my Pensacola was $48,000 per unit.
Yeah,
it's just hard to find these days. It's like almost impossible.
Yeah,
everything's overpriced. Interest rates are super high, and multifamily it's just tough. It's very stagnant right now. Like sellers are not willing to sell at a lower price, and buyers is just more expensive to borrow. So with multifamily being harder to find good deals, I was like, all right, let's pivot. What can we do that's similar to multifamily and that we can make good money? And self-storage came up. So my plan is to find vacant land, about 2.5 acres to 2.5 to 4 acres, and then clearing the land and putting about 300 to 400 units. And that whole process didn't cost me about like $1 million.
Oh, wow.
But if you do an SBA loan, you can get loans for like 10 to 20% depending on the credit. So the idea is to build like a 300 unit self-storage facility that's going to cost me about $1 million to maybe $1.2 million. And then try to flip the first one and then try to get some cash out of it and then do more. The goal this year is to do 3 self-storage units.
I've heard in self-storage units, I could be wrong, you probably know a lot more than I do, but self-storage units is not really it's not really as passive as
so the cash flow is not as
very active, and you kind of have multi-purpose. Like a lot of people, you can have storage units, but I know a guy who has a fund who does self-storage units. He buys self-storage units, but he also sells U-Hauls and stuff like that to ramp up his cash flow.
Exactly. So that'll increase your income and that'll boost your NOI. So boost the valuation of the property. But just self-storage is just like multifamily as far as existing self-storage businesses right now are very expensive. Everything got inflated, right? So to buy a self-storage existing business is pricey. That's why we want to build them. And we're trying to build, we're not going to be building construction like cinder block, like CMU. We're going to be building prefab. So the turnover is a lot quicker to build the self-storage units because it's already pre-made. They're basically just delivering and dropping it off and just setting it up for you.
So what was your diligence in knowing that like this specific area that we're going to build, it's actually like the demand is there?
Right. So I like the cities that I'm already invested in because I'm familiar with them. I know like this, their secondary markets. So there's like it gets divided like A class, B class, C class. Our first one's going to be in Pensacola, really close to where our 18 unit is. And you got to know the area, the population, can it support it? How many self-storage unit facilities are in the area? Is it saturated? You can see the website. You can see like, are there any self-storage units, especially the 10 by 10s? They'll tell you a lot. Are they all sold out, or are they like all of the storage facilities? Are they still available? Kind of gives you an idea of like the demand of the area. And then, so once you like a certain area, a certain property, you order a feasibility report, which is like mine costs $7,000. It's very expensive, but you need to have that feasibility report, especially when you're applying for a loan, because it's kind of like a prereq.
And what's that feasibility?
So the feasibility report is like basically like they do like it's like 50 pages of them doing their market analysis, basically breaking down whether the market can support, the self-storage facility. Is it a good investment? Is it a bad investment? They even give you like the unit mix breakdown, what they recommend. They talk about all like the commercial retail, the population. So it gives you like a whole data report on this property, and they are verified, letting the lenders know that not only that we as investors believe that this is a good property to invest in, but a third party company and also believes it as well. So it kind of gives the bank and the lenders that like green light. Okay, this is a good investment. It's not a risky investment, and that's how. And the self storage business it's standard to have a feasibility report. It costs a lot of money up front, but it's just part of the business.
So, what's your overall opinion of SBA loans? Because I've always heard they're like a disaster because they take so long, so annoying.
Yeah. So, it's good. So in the self-storage business, the SBA 7A loan is really good because you're going to get a little bit more competitive rate on the interest. You can buy a property for less down payment. So I think what they're quoting me now is like basically 18% down payment as opposed to multifamily where I have to put up 25% down payment. So it's a big difference, especially when the property is like $1 million, $2 million. They can lend you up to $5 million. So if I want to build, $1 million self-storage facilities, I can do that through this SBA 7A. And they're meant to help out people like us, like getting started off in this, like new time investors. They do want to check like how much liquidity you have. They're going to check your credit. But they're also going to protect you, right? So like if it's a bad investment, they're not going to give you the loan. So as opposed to like a hard money lender, they're going to give you the loan and they're going to want to get it paid back in 12 months. So.
Yeah, I got you. Well, just kind of shift a little bit. Kind of want to talk about you specifically. How did, like, everyone wants to be successful. Like, what do you feel like really helped y'all grow so fast? Because most people think like 20 units, 30 units are like nearly impossible, but it seems like you kind of like just threw it all together and just made it happen.
Yeah. I guess it's just my, I don't know, maybe I'm just too ambitious. I don't know.
Yeah.
Or maybe I think, I'm always thinking big and I'm very entrepreneurial spirit. Like I'm always thinking business, whether it's in sports, I'm super competitive, like in CrossFit and in general. But I think it's just like not having any limitations. So I've never put any type of limitations on myself as far as like business or goals. And I just don't believe in ceilings. I think you're capable of doing more than what you actually believe. And I said 1,000 units was a tough task, but a capable task. And it was just kind of like the first goal. So I don't know. I think if you think, 5 units, you kind of put like a limit on yourself, and you're gonna be like 1 unit. Well, why not? Why not go after a 5 unit on your first one?
Yeah.
What is
Someone's gotta do it, so why not you?
Someone's already done it. Everything that I've done, someone's already done. I'm not a trailblazer in this industry. I'm just a copy, right? This guy did it this way. Okay, if he can do it this way, I can do it that way. Oh, he needs to raise money. How do you raise money? What's like the setup? What's the structure? All right, you have a general partner and a limited partner. This is a syndication, or this is a joint venture partnership. How do I raise money? Okay, I got to go to a real estate meetup. I got to talk to someone that's already in real estate that doesn't want to be so hands-on,
Yeah.
I'm not doing anything that's like first time or unique. Everything's been done. So like the formula's already there. You just got to copy it. All right.
I've noticed talking to all these entrepreneurs, it's like they're always constantly trying to get better. Like that's one thing when we had Ray Cash Care on last week. He was just constantly talking about your goal is just to get better, the best you possibly can every single day. Yeah. And then you get to become the best version of you. You'll see everything start multiplying. And that seems like at least my take on your when you personally, it's like your goal is like, hey, I'm getting the best I am in CrossFit, the best I am in business, best to my family. I'm giving the best I possibly can every single day, and that's multiplying you physically and financially.
Right. So the best version of yourself is like the ultimate goal, right? That's the formula that we're all trying to figure out, and it's like constant like adjustments, right? So now I'm waking up at 4:30 in the morning. My alarm's at 4:35 in the morning. I start my workout at 5:30. I'm home by 7. I take my kids to school at 7:30. I'm done with that at 8. And then at 9 o'clock, I'm answering emails. Like everything is already calculated in my schedule. Now, can I be better at some things? Can I be a better husband and a better father? Yeah, for sure. Like there's things that I need to adjust, but constantly trying to be better than yesterday or 1% better. And celebrating the wins, right? So, like for example, in CrossFit, like doing something, like a PR, or like, I can only do it one time, but now I can do it 5 times. Like celebrating your small victories is also another important thing for me. But keeping the vision of the long-term goals, being patient, not trying to be all over the place, and just every day is like. My biggest thing is like wealth and health, right? So I'm always trying to be fit, eat healthy, take my supplements, trying to educate myself. I tell my sister, my little brother's in high school right now. Every day I ask him, "What'd you learn today?" He's like, I learned how to cheat. I'm like, okay. All right. Well, at least you learned something,
He's using Chat GPT on all his papers now.
Using it as a tool, which is another interesting conversation. Because I think GP4 just came out yesterday. But
yeah, have you used that though?
Yeah, I use it. I use it as a tool. Like if I get stuck on something, hey, help me with this scenario, or like. I haven't used it for CrossFit. Like these are all my weaknesses. I suck at ring muscle ups, or I don't know how to do it yet. I suck at this. So here's a list of 20 things. Make me a workout, and I'll do it. So that's really interesting. But yeah,
I use it my grammar mistakes. My grammar is horrible.
Yeah. Hey, this is an email. Can you make it? I sucked at English, and my grammar is terrible. My wife makes fun of me all the time. My grammar is terrible. I wasn't a good student at all. State was good to me. So
I've always said, and I think I can't remember my guest that said, but he said there's so much parallels when you become exceptional in one thing. It's easy to become exceptional in another. Because you know the process and the work it took to do this, so you understand how long it takes to become the best.
Right.
And it seems like when people are like big into fitness, big into like sports, like they've already learned how to struggle through the process, and it's just the same aspect of business because it's like obviously I'm not going to wake up tomorrow I'm the best in the world or anything like that. It's a process, getting constantly a little better.
Yeah. So I was an athlete in college. I actually threw the shot put and discus at FSU. So a lot of times I compare my business to being an athlete. Like, hey, this is my first year in real estate. Like, don't be so hard on yourself. This is your redshirt year. All right. This is where we're going to learn. This is where we're going to make mistakes. Our goal is maybe 5 units, right? We're trying to get to 5 units our redshirt year. Then our sophomore year, we're trying to get to 10 units, right? We're going to get better. Every year we get better, no matter what, that's the goal. And as long as every single day I try to be the best version of myself, or I'm like educating myself about real estate through YouTube, through reading books, podcasts, whatever it is, I'm getting better. So that by my sophomore year, my second year in real estate, I'm at 10 units. And that's how I kind of treat myself. 3rd year, 4th year. And then maybe my senior year, okay, multifamily is good. Let's learn about self-storage. Like, let's not just be in box with just one industry. Like, let's develop now the self-storage business, and let's be good at that. And so multifamily is great. I learned it, experienced with it. I still can get better with it, but I also want to, evolve as a real estate investor. I want to learn about self-storage. So
I love relating fitness to business because in fitness, like, you're either getting better or you're getting worse. It's like if you take 1 or 2 days off, like you're going downhill, or like let's say you don't work out for a week, you're obviously not going to get strong. You're going to lose. It's like what in the world has happened? Or like you do a CrossFit exposes everything. You missed 1 or 2 days, or like a week, and then the next week you're like, dang, I just got worked.
Yeah, so everybody notices it too. I was gone for I went out of town for like 3 days, and like, where were you? Where were you? I'm like, dude, it was only 3 days. But like, it's an everyday thing, right? It's an everyday grind. So
yeah. So is it hard for you to wake up at 4:30 every morning?
When I was at another gym, I would work out like around 9:30 to 12, and it was just killing my whole day, right? And I was going to sleep at midnight, and it was just a waste of time, right? So it's a learning curve. Like, I'm wasting hours in the day by doing that. So how do I make the most of my day? I got to wake up earlier, which means I got to go to sleep now at 10 o'clock. So the first 3 weeks my body was getting used to the change. Now by like 8:30, I'm like, all right, I'm like a little bit tired. By 10 o'clock, I'm like, it's hard to keep my eyes open because I did so much already throughout the day.
Oh yeah. So yeah, definitely feeling like CrossFit workouts and stuff like that. I'd definitely take a lot out of you too. But so what would be your best piece of advice to someone if they're just starting out, trying to become an entrepreneur, trying to better themselves? What would your piece of advice for them?
If you want to get started in real estate, seller financing was a great way for me to get started. I would definitely say if you want to get started in multifamily, whether it's just a duplex, you want to see what you're capable of doing, right? So like a duplex in Miami is $1 million. I can't afford it. But a duplex in Pensacola, for example, might be $150,000, right? And if you don't have enough money for that down payment, then you go first people you want to go to is your family. Because your family, they're going to invest with you. You might not be a great investor, but they love you, right? So they're willing to take maybe the risk with you. Obviously, you as an investor, you got to prove to them that you're more than capable of handling their money, Family, friends, people that are in real estate, older people that don't have the time to do the operations and renovate, and they want someone that's maybe young and hungry and willing to take that challenge. And if you have 10% of the down payment, that's great. You have skin in the game. If you don't have any cash, well, you might be able to still get some equity, but you're going to have to do a lot of work. And whether that means, you're renovating it yourself or you're managing it yourself, you just want to get in the game, right? So whether it's a 2-bedroom apartment in Gainesville, like I did through seller financing, or it's a duplex where you're self-managing it and you're renovating it yourself. You got to get in the game, and then you start building relationships. Always the first unit, the limited partner and the investor is going to kind of, test it out first, right? And nobody's going to want to give all the money.
So was it hard to raise money initially, or asking people for money? Like, it's always a weird subject, like bringing that up to people. Like, hey, asking people for money in general.
Yeah, I think if you're just direct and not awkward about it, and be like, hey, listen, I'm trying to, I have this multifamily property that we're looking to renovate. It's a great deal. And you want to show the numbers. Like, you want to have a plan of action, returns, partnership distributions. You go in with a game plan. You don't want to go in just I'm not sure, or doubting and guessing. And if he has a question, you want to be able to answer it. They want to feel like you know your stuff from front to back. So, and
do you agree, like, when you go to raise money, put it into their terms, like, hey, this is what you get out of it, this is how you benefit, kind of like tailor it toward like what their needs and what they're looking to do?
Yeah, if you explain to them like the pref, the equity payouts, the exit strategy, but also you want to like show your value, right? So they're gonna be like, well, why do I need you? Well, you need me because, one, I'm finding the deal. 2, I'm going to manage it. 3, I'm going to deal with all the renovations. So you kind of like sell yourself a little bit. So that's why I'm only putting 10% of the down payment down, and I want 25% of the equity. So you got to sell yourself a little bit. But if you don't have any skin in the game, you got to get in the game somehow. So yeah, raising money is tough. Everything I've done is kind of in house, and I'm kind of like. I'm kind of considering pivoting and starting this, start raising money and kind of make maybe like a fund where we can put some big whales together and have a big fund that we can buy and scale up by, 20 self-storage units a year. But right now, doing it on my own, growing like on our own as a family, growing organically is kind of the route that I've taken. I think it's super important when you raise money and you're dealing with other people's money, that you have the right infrastructure, you have the right investor relations in place to handle all of that, and you just don't want to just do it blindly, right? So you need to have someone on your team that's experienced with like pref equity, waterfalls, carve outs, handling limited partners and partnership distributions and all that stuff. So it gets a little bit more complicated when you're dealing with bigger money, but yeah.
Yeah, I gotcha. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So that's where you would you want to be next, is kind of like get into the bigger fund, and that way it's easier to. I think
you have to. I think you have to if you want to scale to a certain amount of units or properties. Eventually, the well gets dry, and then, like, you run out of money, and you gotta raise money outside. So if you don't want to get stuck, I think it's almost impossible to do it alone. And eventually, bringing up the richest people in the world, they all partner together.
So is that why you kind of like started getting a lot on social media? I've seen you like kind of grow your audience on social media. Is that kind of what helped motivate you to, I guess, not prioritize, but see the value in social media?
Yeah. So the value of social media is, one, it's great. If I ever wanted to raise money, people can go to my social media. They can see that I'm experienced. They can see my track record. Even brokers and lenders, they go to my social media and be like, hey, listen, like, you can see everything I've done. I put all of my renovations. So the plan in the long term, it's like, because of my social media, potential investors can see that I am more than experienced in this industry.
Yeah.
It kind of gives them some type of relief of like
a resume, kind of.
Yeah, it's like an online resume. Yeah.
I gotcha.
Asked ChatGPT to write me a a written resume.
Yeah, right.
But,
So, do you have any like goal of like, hey, because I'm starting to like you knew like a while ago, like I'm starting to fund. I want to grow social media so everyone sees it, so I can kind of help bring like identify me as an industry leader in the space.
mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And I'm not trying. If I ever do raise money, it would be a couple of investors. I think the more people I see real estate influencers trying to raise money from anyone, like $10,000, $20,000, Grant Cardone type of stuff, and they're just trying to.
Hey, he's in Miami.
Yeah, he's from Miami. Actually, a lot of my friends work for him. But hey, Grant Cardone kills it on social media marketing. I don't so much like his real estate philosophy, but yeah, he's crushing it. But I wouldn't want to raise money, $10,000, $20,000, $50,000 at a time from hundreds of people. I would rather have like a smaller group, bigger clientele. I think it's less of a headache, less.
Oh yeah,
less problems. So
less checks you have to write out too. So
yeah, less checks. So, but I'm still learning. Like I said, I know the multifamily space. I'm learning about raising equity and debt and capital. I think that's when you start getting to that next level and doing it properly, doing it right, where you don't get in trouble. I think a lot of people are getting in trouble right now, like syndicators, where they're trying to refinance their property right now, but interest rates are so high that they can't get the cash out what they were expecting or what they were promised. Like
yeah,
a lot of investors thought they were going to get their money back in 14, 15 months, and now it can be a few years. So yeah, syndication can get you in some trouble. But
yeah. So what is like I know you're 1,000 and like your family. How do you keep work-life balance between everything? Because I mean, obviously, like yeah, money's important, but then you have a small family too. How do you kind of like keep the balance between everything?
that's
Like,
the tough part, right? Like because I like to visit properties and make them like vacations and trips and stuff like that. So like I'll come check out a new city and turn it into like a vacation trip. I'm always trying to improve as a father and as a husband, and sometimes talking so much about real estate or business, you have to remind yourself, hey, this is not like the time to talk about that stuff,
yeah,
right?
yeah. Not everyone. That's what my wife tells me. Not everyone wants to talk about real estate all the time. I'm like, oh yeah, you're right.
Yeah, real estate or CrossFit all the time. So
yeah,
it's a good question, and I'm trying to get better. I'm trying to get better at it,
So get into like a more like your fitness journey. So what really started you in CrossFit? Like why CrossFit in general?
I want to lose weight, man. I want to lose weight. I was going to the gym. I did a lot of heavy lifting in college as a shot putter, like stupid numbers. And then I got away from it for like 10 years. I was like, I lifted so heavy in college that I didn't want to touch, I didn't want to go heavy again. So I started playing a lot of basketball. Then I got, back into the gym during COVID. And then I was like, what do I do in the gym? I don't know. I had no structure,
Yeah.
When I was working out in college, I had a program for me, waiting for me, telling me what to do. And I just was like, I gotta lose weight, so I'm gonna start doing HIIT workouts, Metcons, WODs. I hired a private coach and did that for a year. But the gym that I was at just didn't have like the rope climbs, the ring muscle ups, a lot of the stuff that I need to learn to advance, right? There's levels to this. So I did Wadapalooza, and I did like the beginner division because I'm truly a beginner in the sport. And I did well. I got 8th, top 10. Top 10 is like a huge goal. I got 8th place. And then one of my friends, he works out at Peak Fitness in Miami, which is like considered the #1 CrossFit gym in Miami.
Is that Noah?
Noah Olson's there, and we have another girl that's Annika Greer, who's a professional. So we have a few professionals. We had like over 50 people make quarterfinals. So it's like a really good gym. And I went from being like the number one person in my gym to now I'm like the number 30th guy in this. Yeah. So,
one thing I like about like CrossFit, especially like sounds like our gyms, is like there's people doing high level stuff, high level fitness, super like always pushing themselves. I feel like the same, like being in that room helps get you better also.
Yeah.
Same thing with like in real estate and business, getting in a bigger room helps push your goals. If everyone's goals is like maybe yours is to get 1,000 units, maybe one person's a business owner wants to grow their business, but you have the same mindset. Getting in those rooms, I think, is also extremely important because I've seen me like this fitness aspect. It's like I'm really explosive, but cardio I absolutely suck, which is obviously CrossFit 101 is all cardio. Yeah. So it's like I have people like destroying me in certain things, and hey, some things I'm good at. So it's really cool to keep that balance of
always partners, mentors, and training partners. That's like the thing, right? So
yeah.
Ralph, mentor, he actually owned 23 individual houses all in Jacksonville, Indianapolis, said he'll never do it again. Kept me away from Indianapolis. Got right into multifamily, 63, 83, 126. 63 was, I think it was like North Carolina, 83, Tennessee, 126 in OKC. And just like him having such big goals, like got me to like 18, 22, 32. You know what I mean? So I'm like,
yeah,
having someone like that, and then now I'm training with Noah Olson, you know, who's arguably top 3 CrossFitter for the last decade. And yeah, just being around him, or like, you know, you get to witness greatness and like realizing, okay, this is actually possible, right? And seeing how he does things, how he transitions, how he breathes, how he makes everything so efficient. You know, you're constantly learning. So I think it's important not only to have really good mentors, to have really good training partners, you're just surrounding yourself with people who are going to lift you up. So,
and I think it's cool to see like the top tier of like a sport, like let's say CrossFit in general. Like you see how hard they work to achieve what they do. It's like nonstop every day, grind. It sees that, say, hey, that's what you have to do to be at that level, is just nonstop, day after day after day.
Right, nonstop, day after day, listening to your body, being smart, but the movements, how efficient you are, right? No wasted movements, right? No waste, like your breathing patterns, all the fine details that separate you from the next guy, right? Because Noah and I, strength levels, you know, he's a little bit stronger than me, but everything else is just so clean, so efficient. You know, he's just, you know, been doing it for 15 years, right? So he's experiencing all the lifts, the transition. Nothing fades. Like, you know, we probably go to a CrossFit workout like, oh shoot, this one's gonna be a tough one, and you started like thinking about it. He's done it all, so nothing phases him. And just being humble and like. And the grind, he's like the grind is still there with him. You know?
Yeah, my weaknesses are burpees, double unders, and kind of the handstand ones.
Handstand 3 weaknesses. That's good. I have
well, those are my worst. Like I feel like I can keep doing that forever.
I don't know if you can see, but I had like 20 here. My son drew all over it, but it's like butterfly flows, double unders, muscle ups, rope climbs, pistols, handstand walks, wall walks, ring muscle ups, squat snatch, overhead squat. Like it's just like an absurd.
Oh, and thrusters do it too. I guess my wrists aren't flexible enough or something. I'm not sure. It's like I can't get underneath where I'm shooting from, like right here. So I don't know, but yeah. So do you have any like before we hop off here? Do you have any like last piece of advice that you would give someone like just starting out, like books you may have read? I know you read Multifamily Millions. It seems like most successful people read.
So this book's super detailed. It's called The Commercial Real Estate Advice, the Encyclopedia of the Commercial Real Estate Advice. It's by Terry Painter, and it's look how thick it is. Dude, everything you want to know about multifamily, repositioning, it's there. Like, that's my go-to book. Whenever I have a question and I need to go back to something, I go to that book. So I'm also coming out with an ebook. It's called How to Build Wealth with Multifamily Investments. So that's going to be coming out soon, and that's going to be more like a beginner's guide for people how to get started. And it's going to talk about, buying your first property if you don't have any money. And so that's going to be a good starter book. But yeah, I think it's just taking action is the biggest thing, and knowing your limits. So if you can, if it's a 2-bedroom apartment or a duplex, get started, right? So
get started and get going.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Hey, I appreciate you hopping on here and sharing your experience. I know that you have a lot going. Do you try to keep like a little bit of time every day just to read a little bit? Because sometimes it gets like you have so much going on. Like I used to read almost a book a month, but I almost have so much going on. It's hard to like really get to find that time to.
Yeah, I try to get it in. I was reading a book. I'll show you real quick. I got another. I'm always reading something, or I have 2 books here. I was reading these 2 this morning. This one's Creating Wealth Through Self-Storage, Mark Helm, and then Structure. This little book is about structuring and raising debt and equity for real estate. So this is what I want to understand better. It's a tough read because the language is difficult.
Who authored that book?
Bob Beardsley.
That one.
So if this is the next transitional phase for me in the future, is like raising capital, and like if I want to do private equity or any type of fund, I got to know the ins and outs. So this book kind of goes into detail. It's a tough read to understand, but I might have to read it, a few times. But yeah.
My favorite business book is actually Behind You, Traction. I think that's like the best book for like growing a business.
Okay.
Just because it tells you like step by step how to scale.
Business book wise, I like the Power of One More by Ed Milet. It's good. I like Ed Milet. He's very motivational. Feel like we have like similar paths for some reason. So I relate well to him. And podcasts, I'm listening to, I like Rod Cleef, Michael Blanc.
What's the name of their podcast?
Rod Cleef is Lifetime Cash Flow, and Michael Blanc is.
I'll look it up and put it in the description below.
Michael Blanc, something about financial freedoms. I can't. It's on the top of my head, but yeah, he's good. And
but just to close everything off, I do appreciate you coming on here and sharing your knowledge in the commercial space, and appreciate. I love watching your journey, seeing you from I think I saw you on TikTok. I think you blowed up on there on there pretty well, but yeah. But I do appreciate your time, and thanks for sharing your story.
Of course, man. Of course, Tyler. Yeah.
And where can people find more about you also?
So on Instagram, Road to 1,000 Units. TikTok, same thing, Road to 1,000 Units. Pretty active on it. So if you have a question, direct message me. And I'm also on YouTube and Twitter, but I think Instagram and TikTok are the biggest ones. And I'm always trying to help people, right? So just send me a question, and I'll try my best to give you a good answer. So
yeah, because we all grow together. So
absolutely, and that's it, man. So I appreciate it.